Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're digging into a really interesting set of sources that you, the listener, sent over.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. It's focused on a specific corner of the market.
Exactly. We're talking about the global market for tennis shock bumpers.
Sometimes called vibration dampeners, right? Those little rubber things.
That's them. The source is a detailed report from Cognitive Market Research looking at the market from 2021 all the way out to 2033.
So a nice long view.
Right. And our mission today, well, it's to sift through this data, figure out the key trends, market size, growth, where it's happening.
Maybe why we should care about, tennis shock bumpers.
Precisely. What can this specific niche tell us? Okay, first look. These initial numbers are pretty striking.
Let's hear them.
So the global market in 2021, already over $1 billion, 1,042.66 million to be exact.
Wow. Okay. For just shock bumpers, that's significant.
And it's projected to more than double. The forecast for 2033 is 2,125.26 million.
A doubling? That's strong growth. What's the overall growth rate?
The compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, is projected at 6.114% over that whole period.
6.1%. That's pretty healthy. Consistent growth over a decade for, like you said, a seemingly niche item?
Yeah, it suggests something's driving demand pretty steadily.
It really does. So it's not just a stable market, it's actively growing. Where's this growth actually coming from? Does the report break it down?
It does, region by region. And yeah, there are definitely some interesting variations.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Let's see the regional dynamics.
Right, the source starts with North America, currently the biggest piece of the market.
Makes sense. Large tennis base there.
In 2021, it was worth $405.593 million. It's forecast to hit $753.406 million by 2033.
Okay, still growing quite a bit then.
Definitely. But the regional CDR is 5.301%. So a little bit below that global average we just saw.
Interesting. So the biggest market, but maybe not the fastest growing market anymore?
It seems that way. The report shows the U.S. has the lion's share, naturally. Their CGR is around 4.98%. Canada's a bit quicker, 5.818%. But the real eye-opener in North America, according to this data, is Mexico.
Mexico. What are the numbers there?
It started smaller, sure, around $30 million in 2021.
Sure.
But the projected CAGR, 7.031%.
Wow, over 7%. That is significantly higher than the U.S. or Canada, and well above the global average, too.
Exactly. That really jumps out. The analysis hints this could be, tied to rising tennis participation.
Maybe a growing middle class spending more on sports.
Yeah, and possibly more investment in courts and things, making it easier to play.
That makes sense. It often tracks with economic development, a small product reflecting a bigger trend.
Okay, let's hop across the pond to Europe.
Right, another major tennis region.
The report gives a regional CGR of 5.78%, so pretty close to the global average.
Okay.
Taking the market there from about $297 million in 2021 up to a projected $582 million by 2033.
Solid growth. Europe's got deep roots in tennis, but I bet there are variations within Europe, too.
Oh, definitely. The report breaks down key countries. You see places like the UK, Germany, France, Italy, all showing steady growth.
But maybe at different paces?
Yes. For instance, the UK's CADR is listed at 4.767%, a bit slower. But then there's this category, rest of Europe.
Always an interesting one. What about it?
That segment shows a notably high CAGR, actually 7.237%.
So faster growth potentially happening in smaller markets combined, or maybe Eastern Europe picking up pace.
Could be. It suggests the growth isn't uniform across the continent, even if the overall picture is solid.
Right, the nuances are in those country-level details.
Now let's shift to Asia-Pacific. The report really flags this as a high-growth zone.
Okay, I'd expect that given broader economic trends. What's the regional number?
The CAGR here is projected at 7.674%. That's clearly higher than North America and Europe.
Yes, significantly higher.
It drives the market from around $215 million in 2021 to over $520 million by 2033.
Big jump. And within APAC, I imagine China and India are key.
Absolutely highlighted in the source. China's the largest market there.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Absolutely highlighted in the source. China's the largest market there, with a powerful CAGR itself, 8.247%.
Very strong. And India?
Okay, India. This is maybe the standout figure in the whole report.
Oh!
According to this data, India has the highest country-level CAGR globally, projected at 8.86%.
Whoa, almost 9%. That's huge.
Yeah, from about $27 million in 2021 forecast to over $74 million by 2033. That kind of speed and growth.
For a niche product like this, it suggests something significant is happening with tennis adoption and spending there.
Right. Maybe more people playing, more disposable income, maybe visibility from pro players.
Could be all of the above. It implies a real cultural or demographic shift towards the sport. And the report probably shows other strong performers in APAC, too.
It does. South Korea, Australia, Southeast Asia, as a group, all showing robust growth, contributing to that high regional average.
Okay, so APAC is clearly a major engine. What about South America?
Another region showing growth above the global average. The CGR projected here is 6.68%.
Also very healthy.
Taking the market from roughly $37 million in 2021 to about $102 million by 2033.
So more than doubling there as well. Suggests tennis is gaining good ground across the continent.
Seems so. Brazil is the largest market, followed by places like Argentina and Colombia, all showing positive trends in the report.
Good to see. And the Middle East.
Similar story there, actually. Also solid expansion. The regional CAGR is 6.692%, almost identical to South America.
Right.
That brings the market value to nearly $100 million by 2033, up from about $45 million in 2021.
Another region showing that above-average growth. Any standouts there?
Well, Saudi Arabia holds the largest share, but the report specifically notes Qatar for its fast growth rate, alongside Turkey and the UAE.
Interesting. Again, seeing specific countries maybe accelerating due to investment or development initiatives.
It's just a pattern. Okay, finally, let's quickly cover Africa.
Okay.
The source frames this as more of a developing market for these products. The CAGR is 5.499%.
So below the global average, but still positive growth.
Exactly. Growing from about $33 million in 2021 to almost $67 million by 2033.
It might be the smallest regional market currently based on these numbers, but that positive trend shows there's potential building there too.
Yeah. The report mentions South Africa as the largest market, but Nigeria and the rest of Africa also contribute to that growth.
Okay, so we've covered the globe, pretty much.
We have. From that big billion-dollar starting point down to these specific country growth rates.
And it's quite revealing how tracking this one small accessory, it paints a picture of these much bigger global shifts in, sports trends and economic development.
Right. You see the overall steady growth globally, but then these pockets of really rapid acceleration, especially in Asia-Pacific, South America, the Middle East.
And those specific countries we highlighted, India with that incredible rate, China, Mexico, Qatar, it's not random.
No, it reflects where tennis seems to be taking off, becoming more accessible, or where people have more money to spend on it.
Exactly.
So what does it all mean for you listening? Well, it shows that even looking at something super specific, like a tennis shock bumper market,
you get this really clear data-backed view of where the sport itself is booming around the world.
it's a neat reminder that sometimes the tiniest details in these niche reports can signal much bigger economic or social changes.
Absolutely. The demand for the bumper reflects the demand for the game.
So we've done this deep dive, thanks to the sources you sent in. We've mapped out the market, found the hot spots.
Like India and China with that exceptional growth.
And hopefully given you a clearer picture, and maybe shown the surprising value hidden in this kind of granular data.
It really demonstrates how detailed market analysis can uncover unexpected patterns.
And here's something to maybe leave you with, a final thought to chew on. If we can get this level of precision, these revealing insights, from data about tennis shock bumpers, what other seemingly tiny, maybe overlooked markets out there are holding similar clues? Clues about major global shifts, economic, cultural, that we just haven't thought to look for yet.
That's a great question. The big picture often hides in those small details.
Something to mull over. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive inspired by your sources.
Welcome to this deep dive.
Hello.
Today, we're looking into a really specific corner of sports gear, maybe one you haven't thought much about.
Yeah, the tennis shock bumper market.
Exactly. We've been digging into a market dynamics review on this.
And our goal is basically to unpack what's pushing this market, what's kind of holding it back.
And the interesting trends shaping where it might be going.
It sounds pretty niche, doesn't it? But the review, well, it makes it clear that even these small bits are tied into bigger shifts. Player behavior, technology.
It's fascinating how something so simple connects like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start with the drivers. What's making this market grow? The review really points to injury prevention first.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Like, players are much more aware now of things like tennis elbow, wrist strain, that sort of thing.
Absolutely, and especially recreational players. They're, trying to be more proactive about avoiding those aches and pains. The review actually shows a correlation between players looking to cut down on racket vibration and buying these bumpers. It's a pretty low-cost way to try and help.
Sort of part of that bigger wellness trend in sports generally.
Exactly. Player wellness.
And it's not just injuries, is it? The source also talks about just more people playing tennis recreationally around the world.
Yeah, simple numbers. More players, more potential customers for all the accessories.
And for those players, customization seems important. The review notes...
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
For those players, customization seems important. The review notes that bumpers are seen as, well, an easy way to tweak the feel of their racket.
Without spending a lot, yeah. Lets them play around with the dampening, find what feels right for their game,
And then you add in things like athlete endorsements. Even just seeing pros use them, apparently that influences people.
Subtly,
Yeah.
But it adds up. The review mentions that visibility.
Plus, they're just easy to buy. Specialist shops, big online places like Amazon, they're everywhere.
Right. That accessibility and visibility, the report says, are really key for growth in this kind of accessory market.
Okay, so lots pushing it forward. But the review also flags some things holding it back. The restraints.
Yeah, definitely some headwinds.
And a big one seems to be this ongoing debate about performance. Do they actually help or hinder, especially for serious players?
That's a key point in a review. A lot of experienced players, or competitive ones, particularly if they've already got high-end rackets with, built-in dampening.
They see external ones as maybe redundant?
Yeah, or worse, they worry it might mess up the racket's balance or feel, something that's been precisely engineered.
So there's a question of perceived value, depending on your level of play. The source hits on that.
Definitely. And then there's just the product itself. Durability comes up in the report.
Ah, right. Some cheaper ones just fall off mid-match or break down quickly.
Exactly. And that obviously annoys players, leads to frustration.
Which isn't great for repeat business or how people see a brand.
No. The review is clear. That kind of dissatisfaction hurts. And, let's be honest, the source confirms it's still a pretty niche market overall.
Compared to rackets or strings, yeah, it's inherently smaller.
That limits the scale. Plus, you mentioned it earlier, that integrated dampening tech in newer rackets.
That's direct competition, isn't it? If you buy a modern racket, you might just think, I don't need an extra bit.
Right, so you've got this push and pull, growth drivers, but also these limitations.
But the market isn't static. The review points to some interesting trends happening now.
Yeah, this is where it gets kind of cool, according to the report. Innovation, materials and design.
Okay, like what?
Well, they talk about advanced polymers, multi-layer constructions, stuff designed specifically to absorb vibration better than the old simple rubber ones.
So the basic product is actually evolving.
Absolutely. And another trend, no surprise really, is sustainability.
Ah, seeing that everywhere.
Yep. The review highlights companies looking at or already using recycled materials or bio-based stuff for bumpers.
Makes sense. And then there's personalization. The report really emphasizes this one too.
Oh yeah, custom colors, different shapes, maybe even team logos or brands.
People want their gear to reflect them, right? Show some personality or support.
The review suggests that personalization really helps build a stronger connection with players, makes it more than just functional.
And finally, the source underlines just how massive e-commerce is for this.
Huge influence. Online shops make it way easier to find all the different types, read reviews from other players.
Get recommendations maybe tailored to your specific racket or style.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier to finding the right one, or seeing bundles, or just making an impulse buy when you're getting other stuff.
Okay, so summing it up. It's a small segment, the shock bumper market, but it's surprisingly dynamic.
Driven by health worries, the desire to customize.
But held back a bit by performance questions and built-in tech.
And it's changing fast with new materials, eco-friendly options, all that personalization, and online shopping, making things easier.
It really shows how even these tiny accessories are caught up in the big shifts in sports tech and culture.
Yeah, it's a neat little case study.
So we've unpacked the drivers, the restraints, the trends. You get a sense of the forces shaping this niche market, from injury science to online shopping habits.
Gives you a pretty solid picture.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on as we wrap up this deep dive. We've talked about the debate over real performance impact, especially at higher levels. And we know racket tech itself keeps adding better built-in dampening.
Right.
So how much further can this external shock bumper market realistically grow? Is it heading towards being a truly niche thing, mainly just for players laser focused on a very specific feel, or purely for that visual customization?
Something to think about next time you're on the court and spot one.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai